Hello and welcome to BQ Prime. I'm your host Vikas Srivastav, and today we are talking to Mr. N. Venu. He is the Managing Director and CEO of Hitachi Energy, looking after India and South Asia. Welcome to BQ Prime.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as we have seen, like in the transmission and distribution sector, it has always been in the focus. Either before because of financial issues with the Indian discoms and others, and now because of a lot of infrastructure development that the government has undertaken. So, what kind of role and opportunity you see for Hitachi Energy,
Yeah.
and also for India as an industry?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much having me here. So energy is the key for any economic growth of any country, right? So Hitachi Energy's portfolio, whether it is a product, system, services, and technologies, is a bridge between generation and consumption. So we play every part of the energy ecosystem, whether on the generation standpoint or on the transmission standpoint, distribution, and also consumption in that. So when it comes to the energy transition, which is a very big in India especially, and we are having an ambition of adding a 500 gigawatt of renewable by 2030, and 50% of the energy demand is met through the renewable. So this is a very big ask, and we see a huge amount of opportunities in the renewable and the interconnections, and also on the transmission standpoint, because we need a bulk transmission super highways, what we call power super highways, are required to evacuate this kind of scale of these generated to bring it to the load centers, etc. in that. So that's a big opportunities for Hitachi Energy's businesses across our businesses.
And if we talk about your opportunity like Hitachi Energy, so because your expansion and your capacity expansion will largely depend on that.
Yeah.
So what kind of, if you can quantify in value terms, what kind of opportunities you see in the Indian space?
Yeah.
And would your manufacturing units also look at exports from here?
Yeah. So when it comes to the Hitachi Energy's offerings, as I told you, we are a bridge between generation and the consumption, right? And we have been seeing this kind of energy transition much ahead of the curve, and then we continue to expand it. In fact, we never stopped expansion even during the COVID time. In the last 6 months or so, we have opened the 3 new green factories. One is our power quality, doubling our capacity from 10,000 MVR to 20,000 MVR capacity in Dodabalapur near Bangalore. And then we also opened our new bushing factory in Baroda. And then recently, 2 weeks back, we have opened a new power system factory, which is basically catered to HVDC, power quality, etc. in that. And when we have 19 manufacturing factories in India, and one quarter of it, almost 25% of what we produce, we export. We export to the various countries in South America, in Southeast Asian countries, Africa, Middle East countries, and also we export some of the components to our own companies around the world. So that is how our export strategy has been.
And when you have so many factories, what are the major components or of the industry that you produce? If you can tell some of them.
So basically, we have the 4 business units. The one is the transformer. The entire range of the transformers we do it, and whether it is power transformer or traction transformer, the distribution transformer, everything. Just give an example of our application of the transformer. Every second Shatabdi you board, it is powered through our transformer manufactured in Baroda. And every third, dedicated freight corridor locomotive is powered through our transformer manufactured in that. So that is how the thing. Then the transformer, then they come to high voltage. We have the gas insulated switchgear. We have AIS. We have power quality products. So that's completely the switchgear products. Then we have the automation, grid automation, substation automation, and enterprise software solutions, and the microgrids, etc. in that. And the last but not the least is very important is what we call the grid integration. Grid integration is the substations and connecting any generation, any form of generation to the grid. That's what grid integration. HVDC technology we use, FACTS, power quality, and also we have the new technology, what we call on the consumption standpoint, the electrical mobility. So we have the fleet of electric mobility technology is also part of our portfolio. So right from the traditional grid enabling solutions versus edge of the grid, what we call, whether it is a data center, whether it is electrical mobility, all those solutions we have, our technologies will go into those kind of segments in that.
Of late, there has been a lot of focus on green transition. Like we also have to meet our net zero emission targets.
Right.
So 2030, 47, then 70.
Right.
So based on that, what are the products that you manufacture? If you can elaborate a little bit more on your EVs
Yeah.
and green hydrogen
Right.
space,
Right.
what kind of products you can provide to the industry?
Right. Right. So let me just give you, India has a commitment that they want to be net zero by 2070, right? But they also have a very ambitious commitments in the intermediate stage. Like by 2030, as I told you, they want to be, 50% renewable is met, 50% demand is met through the renewable, and the reduction of $1 billion, 1 billion CO2 emissions, 1 billion ton CO2 emissions. So there are very big commitments to achieve, to reach our net zero goal in that. So if you're talking about, on the green standpoint, just give you, for example, this particular thing, what we have displayed here is, sustainable products. Okay. So our products are not only our products, our industry products has an SF6 gas. I give you one example of that. SF6 gas is a much more potent, almost 23,000 more potent than a CO2. So every industry you manufacture this switchgear, they use SF6. But we came out SF6 gas solution. So we are the first one in the world to unveil 420 kV gas insulated switchgear SF6 free. Recently last year when we had this SIGRE conference in Paris, so we have unveiled the first in the world 420 kV gas insulated switchgear. So this is extremely important in decarbonizing our energy system, decarbonizing our society in that. What I told you is the one example in that. Then we have other technologies like HVDC. HVDC technology will bring the green power all the way from wherever the sun shines or wherever the wind blows to the load center in a much more efficient way, in a much more, bringing the losses down, footprint is done. All these things will add, greening of the economy, greening of the entire energy space.
Right.
Yeah.
And this will also require a lot of investments.
Yeah.
So have you factored in what kind of investments you will be looking over, say, a period of 5 years, 10 years in the country?
So Hitachi Energy has been in India for last 6 decades. We have continuously investing in both in terms of our people, our technology, and also footprints in that. So as I told you in the beginning that, for the last 3 years, we continually invest, and we have not stopped investing even during COVID, in terms of the people, in terms of our technology, and also opening our new factories in that. In the last 6 months, we have opened the new factories, and investing is part of our strategy. We continue to look at opportunities where, ahead of the curve, and then taking actions in that. For example, the HVDC factory, what we have opened 2 weeks back in a place in Chennai, is extremely important for interconnection of these bulk renewables, making the power super highways, what we call power super highways. For example, we have inaugurated this Raigad-Pugalur HVDC link for our customer PGCIL, and in this link all the way from Raigad to Pugalur over a distance of 1,800 kilometers bring almost 6,000 megawatt of power, a clean energy from both directions. So that is our technology, and we have been investing. We are a long-term player here. We continue to invest in people, technology, and our manufacturing footprint.
Okay. Can you quantify, since it's a listed company in the country, can you quantify how much you are planning to invest in value terms?
I will not give you the number looking forward, but I will definitely give you in the last 3 years, on average, every year we are investing more than 100 crores. Okay. Yeah, so that is what is the thing, and then we envisage the same thing going forward as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as your this impact on your financials were concerned, I mean, there was some impact on your margins because of semiconductor issue that the country is facing.
Right.
Not this country, in fact, globally.
Yeah.
And Indian government has given a lot of emphasis, and they are also trying to increase manufacturing capacity in the country under PLI.
Right.
So, what impact you see in coming quarters?
Yeah.
And how long you think it will take for the country to kind of really, come up with good capacity to meet Indian demand?
Right. So as we have been telling also in our earnings calls, quarterly earnings calls, semiconductor is one of semiconductors and electronic chips, one of our key components in the grid automation solutions, and also some of the grid integration solutions what we manufacture in that. And this is a global problem. Global problem has caused because of huge uptick in the demand from the electrical vehicle, automobile industry. So due to that, the manufacturer, the semiconductor manufacturers who were doing it, so they were not able to cater to all the things. So this has been the case in the last couple of quarters, and we have taken this as an issue, and then we also looking at internally how can we overcome this. So what are the alternative methods we have? All the design parameters, etc. is one side. We are taking all actions to redesign based on the available components, etc. And also looking at alternative components. So that's the one action is going on in that. But at the same time, we also engaged with these manufacturers, and then looking at this is important for everybody to cater to the demand of energy sector, right? You will not able to decarbonize the world if you don't have these things supply available to the energy sector in that. So this is how our pitch has been to these companies, and then we are seeing that this issue has softening. We are not come out of the wood yet, right? We still have a challenge, and we have been saying that at least it will take a couple of more quarters until this particular demand will stabilize it in that. Couple of more quarters.
Since you are part of this industry, would you like to either backward integrate or forward integrate yourself going ahead?
Yeah.
Any new diversification that you would look at?
Right. So we have, again, I'm taking a third time maybe, our portfolio, our technology is the bridge between the generation and the consumption. That's where our expertise comes. More than 130 years when we were part of ABB, and now 100 years of legacy of Hitachi. More than 250 years of combined legacy is where our experience, we would like to utilize it in that. We have three things to add. We would like to, further strengthen our power grid core, what we call the core where I talked about the 4 businesses. That's where is the thing. We will continue to strengthen that. The second one is we will expand at the edge of the grid. Whether it is using our digital technologies, whether using our sustainable technologies, data centers kind of thing. We will not go into the data center, but our technology will power the green data centers. So similarly, our technology will enable storage. Our technology will enable green hydrogen solutions. So that is where we will be focusing. And the third one is the energy transition is a huge challenge. It is bigger than one company, one nation, and one individual, right? What we are looking at the collaboration, partnerships, and co-creation. So that's where our focus is to engage the institutions, engage the academia, so that we are able to bring this knowledge, because we need everybody's inputs, so that we are able to scale it up, these technologies in that. So that is here our focus is on that.
So that I understood. Well, what I meant by backward integration or forward integration was if you would be looking at, say, sometime, because Hitachi is a global big time group,
right?
If you would like to in India also start generation, or maybe looking at transmission and distribution, participating in the country, in the T&D space.
Right. No, we will continue to participate. We will not able to, I don't think we will participate in a large turnkey generation of that. But our technology will go into the generation. So we will partner with the company who is getting into that. We partner into company who is having a huge transmission capabilities of building end-to-end, including the transmission lines, etc. That's where we come and partner with our technology provider. Same is the case on the distribution standpoint, because we have a lot of what we call as the software suites for the distribution, making the distribution more efficient, more robust, etc. in that. So we again partner with the distribution companies. In the case of transmission, with the TSOs, transmission companies, and that is what is our strategy, and we remain in that strategic direction.
So you have a big R&D center. So what kind of employees attrition is there, or kind of employment that you are looking to generate going ahead? And if you can elaborate a little bit more on your technology development and innovation, based or in the context of T&D space.
Right. So again, when we are looking at the transition, as I talked about the energy transition use thing, 3 things come into the forefront. One is the sustainable products and solutions. When I say sustainable products and solution is looking at how we can remove the SFC, how we can remove the CO2 in the existing products and thing. I given one example of our iconic 420 kV GIS, which is a big thing. We have been working on this for last several years, right? That's the one. The second one is power electronics. The power electronics is the center of all our products going forward, because with so much of whether it is the generation or in the consumption in that, right? We talk about the EV charger is what is built of semiconductor inside. Electrical vehicles, also a lot of semiconductors and chips involved in that. So more and more our products also have built in these semiconductors in that. So power electronics is the key in that, because you need to have a flexibility. You also need to have better managing, flexibility, resilience. All that will happen with the power electronics in that. So sustainable products and power electronics are the thing. And the third, which is also very important, is the digitalization. Why do we need a digitalization? Because you need to have a flexibility. You need to know the transparency of the flow of the electrons from one end to another, because the renewables are intermittent. We don't know when the sun shines or when the wind blows, and so much of uncertainties around that. And you need to have a what you call a close to reality of the flow of the electrons, flexibility, things like that, digitalization. So these are the three things where are important in the new power systems of the future, or new in the energy transition, and that's where we have been focusing on that.
Couple of more questions. One on pricing. What's been the impact of raw material cost for you, and has it increased? Because commodity prices at some point had increased or peaked. Now they have come down a little bit.
Right.
So what's the continuing impact of that, and how long you see this to continue?
So as you know, raw material prices have gone up in a last year or so. What we call as a commodity super cycle, right? It went up to so high, but we have a very clear strategy of looking at those things to see that more and more our contracts are at variable prices, so that we are able to take care of these upside and downs on that. And the second one is that we also have a policy of hedge our major commodities. We may not be able to hedge everything because the regulation may not allow us, but wherever it is allowed, so we hedge, for example, copper. The moment we get any order or any visibility, we immediately hedge those quantity of the quarter. So we are taking those kind of things to mitigate a part of that. But there are also other risks in addition to the material. So we have seen in the last couple of quarters a huge increase in the freight and logistics cost, which is sometimes even a multiplier factor in that. So those things also we are taking with the more forecasting, able to book in advance. So those are the mitigating actions what we are taking as a company to see that we are okay with that.
But how long you see the commodity cycle to continue?
I think commodity cycle, if you really look at it, it's come down, except a couple of things. For example, we use a lot of CRGO in our transformers. There are very few manufacturers in the world who manufactures that. So that has challenges in that. But we have been negotiating with our customers to see that we have the variable price contracts, most of us. So at this point in time, more than 60% of our contract are the variable contracts in that. So the question to you, how long it will take? In my view, that this demand is there globally, the energy transition. So it will be there for a couple of more quarters or years in that. Yeah.
And overall, how do you see the industry outlook? One last question on the overall industry outlook, and what's your take on that?
I think industry outlook is in my view, is extremely bullish. I was attending the inauguration of Honorable Minister of Energy, and he was saying that you need to double your manufacturing capacity. The industry as a whole need to double your manufacturing capacity to reach the commitments what India has. 500 gigawatt of renewable by 2030, and to reach that, the government needs to, or everybody needs to do more than 2 to 3 times what we have been doing it, and that is a huge opportunity for us. And it's also a big challenge for us, right? How do we, in the shortest possible time, expand and able to, take care of these kind of things. So in all, I would say that it's a big opportunity for us, especially the Hitachi Energy in India, because we are center of this energy transition. We are center of exactly an energy transition.
Okay, but from your current capacity, how much you plan to take it, say, next 2 years or 3 years?
So we have been continuously, as I told you, we have been continuously investing it. One is that we are expanding brownfield factories to increase our capacities, and also putting up the new factories to add more, localizing the technology what we have today. Hitachi Energy in India, more than 80% what we have globally, we are manufacturing locally. That's number one in that. Then second is we are continuously looking at our demand versus our capacity. For example, we see a lot of opportunities in the rail, and we already started taking action to expand our traction transformer capacities in that. So this is a continuous, ongoing process.
Right.
Yeah.
You said you export 25% of your total
Right.
outside.
Right.
So in which segment the demand is there abroad, and would you be focusing on increasing that segment?
Yeah. So we have actually started this, when we started our new company 3 years back, our exports were in the range of 15%. Then we set ourselves a target that we want to be at 25% of exports in the next 3-4 years. So we have achieved that ahead of the curve. So we want to stabilize this 25% at this point in time before we take a next jump in that. So the second point, what you're talking about on the demand standpoint, I think, so the demand is there across, again, on the transmission, distribution, and the consumption standpoint. So all the traditional segments as well as the new segments such as the data center, energy storage, and those are the things in that.
And which are these countries where you export?
As I said, we are doing South America, a couple of countries. We are also exporting to North America some products, and we are exporting to South Asia countries and African countries.
Africa.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, sir. It was pleasure talking to you.
Right.
We'll meet once again.
Right. Thank you.